Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I am so excited to have Margo on with us. She is one of our beautiful soul sisters. She's been part of our yoga psychology school and also our WISE Method inner circle. And I'm so grateful for her to take the time to be on with us today. And we're so honored to have her be part of our community. So do you want to just take a minute quickly, girl, to introduce yourself and then maybe talk a little bit about what brought you to WiseMind and, kind of what you were seeking when you started the program, what kind of brought you to it?
Yes. So actually, I'm actually 55 years old, and there's a point for me to telling you this. And have one daughter, and I live here in North Carolina. Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you, but it's a little bit low, but it's okay.
Okay. So I am living here in North Carolina, and how I started reaching out to Jenny. I found I had a situation in my life that immediately I knew I needed emotional resilience. And how I knew that at the time was not only having some insight on what Jenny does with her programs, but also because I was showing a pattern that I thought I've healed. You know how you've grown, you've gotten better, you're wiser, and then all of a sudden something happens. In my case, it was with a family member, and the way I
Mhm.
reacted, it felt old. It felt like something I used to do, and I'm like, I don't do this, and I just cried out for some help. And I knew that Jenny does some type of work with emotional resilience plus some other things. And I said, you know what? I need some help. And I reached out to Jenny and I got just that, some help.
That's so funny. Uh, and I remember you and I have talked about this before. Um, like when you and I met years ago and how this has been, a multi-year journey because we knew each other back when I owned Wise Mind, Yoga Psychology, Meditation and Mindfulness Center in Cary. And I remember you and I sitting down, like when I used to have the little, private practice
Yes.
and sitting down in those two chairs and having a consultation. And you and I, had the conversation that at that point you were like in your healing journey, but like some of the, I guess, suffering for lack of a better word, or, some of the patterns, like the pain from those patterns hadn't surfaced enough for you to be a yes.
Yeah,
And
right.
then, we just kept connecting, like you said, and you said you had followed me and just kind of kept in touch. And then I don't remember how we connected again. And then you were like, you know what? I am ready. I do want to go deeper into transformation and I am considering teaching. And so that's kind of how that just, resonated. So I know that there's like people listening to this that maybe don't know me at all, or there's students listening to this that have been watching on the sidelines like you did for years and following me. In fact, I just had a call with somebody last week who did join the Girl Let It Go inner circle, and she'd been following me for 4 years. Okay. 4 years.
Yes.
Okay. So the point is, I want to just say this for a minute because I encourage you and I invite you to not take 4 years or X amount of
7.
time to wait to do this, because one of the beautiful things that we do in this program, as I like to, one of the phrases I like to use is taking like 6 years worth of healing and transformation and turning it into like 6 months.
Yes.
And part of that is because it's a proven process and I've done it with hundreds of students. So I just want to drop that little seed, that little, hopefully, seed of inspiration or encouragement or motivation, that if you are one of those students waiting on the sidelines, like asking yourself, like, if you really need to be somewhere else in 6 months, like if your life needs to change in 6 months, or where would you be if you're in the same place in 6 months, right? So
Yeah.
if you are one of those people waiting on the sidelines, I'm going to send you this personal invitation. So do you want to take a minute, girl, and just kind of share too, like some of the common things, that students struggle with, right? They have self-doubt, they may not trust themselves, to go through the process. They might be struggling financially, figuring out, instead of it being a how, but an if.
Hmm.
So like working through that fear or that self-doubt of actually financially and time-wise, right? Because it's an emotional, a financial, and a time commitment that they are worth, like that investment in themselves. So could you
Yes.
take a minute just to share about that and kind of what that process was like,
Yes.
for you to actually invest?
Definitely. I want to first say, you're worth it. I'm worth it. You're worth it. I didn't know I was worth it so many moons ago. I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
There's you're doubting. It's like, what's this program? What's happening? You get all kinds of thoughts, self doubt, and or just can I do it? Or even the money. Girl, if I wish I'd have done it a long time ago. I'm telling you, I wish I had done it a long time ago instead of heeing and hawing, being scared, all in my boots. Ooh, I don't know. I mean, girl, and you want to talk about healing in a short period of time. So yes, as Jenny said, I was on a healing journey, but that's 7 years in the making. I come to class for 1 year or less than a year, and my world opens up. Now, I'm just saying, I don't want to go back in the past, but all I'm saying is that if I just trusted myself,
Mm-hmm.
if I just trusted that God or the universe would help me myself,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I can see now I could have took it. I could have took it shaking in my boots because in the middle to the end, you will know why you did what you did. You free yourself. Not only do you
Mm-hmm.
free yourself, you align yourself to your most truest self. And there's no money that can buy that, you know. And
Right.
that's one of the things I learned. But let me add this little thing that I learned also when I came to Jenny WiseMind or WiseMind. I needed, as I said earlier, emotional resilience. But as I
Mm-hmm.
went through the class, guess what I found out? I wasn't even aware of what's happening in my body, how the emotions were trapped in my body and in my mind. I was totally unaware of it. And you
Mm-hmm.
might say to yourself, how can you be unaware? Trust me. If you're running every day in life, you getting this done, getting that done, you're not taking any time for yourself. Believe me, you can hide from yourself. You can deny a lot of stuff. And when I
Mm-hmm.
went through the program and start realizing that, hey, um, I went from the beginning of the program to the end. I opened up to awareness. How do I know this? I did the breath work. I did all the homework, and I feel now in my body when I'm any emotion. It doesn't have to be happy or sad, but any of the emotions that I have, I
Mm-hmm.
know when it's happening. So I have a choice. But I
Mm-hmm.
before I didn't I had no awareness, so I couldn't even stop the pattern. It was happening. I could see it, but I couldn't stop it. Why was that? That program, Last Mind, just helped me a whole lot to discover me and align myself up with me, and to be a more open and just everything I want to be. I want to be jolly. I want to be not thinking about the past all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, I love that. I love the way you said that, because I think a big part of what people struggle with in making the decision and taking action, what I like to call soul aligned action, is they do second guess themselves and they don't trust themselves. And oftentimes it's not even necessarily about the money mindset. It's that they're not trusting themselves.
That's right.
And so I just invite you again to let go of the fear, let go of the self-doubt, let go of indecision, because we can do like a whole analysis paralysis, right? And go back and forth. And I say this because in my own journey with my coaching and my training and all the things that I've done, I've had to take soul aligned action, right? I've had to let go of fear. I've had to say, oftentimes, I may not have a solid plan of how I'm going to do this, but I will figure it out. And whether that was the time, whether that was the emotional investment, whether that was the financial investment. And I've talked about this before, when I did my training out in Los Angeles with yoga psychology, I didn't know for sure how I was going to pay the tuition, but I figured it out. I didn't know. All I knew is that I would figure it out, and God would, if it's meant to happen, he's going to give me those resources so that I can finish the training. And ultimately, obviously it all worked out, because here I am now teaching those yoga psychology skills to you and everybody else. And so I just invite you to tune into that, because whether you want to be a teacher or not, this program will be just an incredible personal transformation, right? So
It is
I
definitely.
would love to, on two quick things. One, if you want to share with someone who doesn't know me, right, what it's like to get on a call with me and what it's like to get on a consultation, because we're doing 15-minute consultations right now. And then if somebody needs a longer one, we'll set up a longer one. So I'll put the link in the comments to the Girl Let It Go Inner Circle. And the program that Margo, the WISE method, is part of that. And that's part of what Margo's in right now. And then also the WiseMind Soul Warrior Yoga Psychology School. So if you could just take a minute, girl, and just share, for those students that don't know me, who I am as a person, what I'm like as a teacher, and just like what it's like to get on a call with me.
So that's my pleasure. Jenny, if I may call you just Jenny, is that she is like a mentor you wish you had, right? Someone that can coach you, be your friend, but won't let you get away with your self-doubt and
Mm-hmm.
going back into those negative vibes. She will help you pull you right on out of that. And I love that about Jenny. And also, when you get on a call, it's just like we're talking right now. It's no different. She is not different, than what you're experiencing right now. She's a lovely person. Her heart is for men and women to really grab hold to, healing themselves. And who wouldn't want to heal themselves? There's always some kind of baggage we have. And Jenny is right there in your corner. And I love that, about Jenny. So, make a call and let her know what's happening. And I guarantee that you would notice how she could pull out of you what's happening inside of you and help coach you or advise you how this program will work for you. And again, you can't put a price on that. The value is too great, on yourself.
Thank you, girl. Yeah, I'm really here to just have a consultation, a custom call, and really just figure out, is this a good fit for you? Is it not? And it may be, or it may be not. But whether that's doing it on demand, whether it's doing it with a group mentorship, whether you're interested in a certification or personal transformation, or you might be even curious about one-on-one. So there's different levels of ways that we're supporting people this year. And so I'm just here to kind of have a call just to figure out, what are you struggling with? Where's the gap of where you want to go? What's holding you back? Identify these things and then figure out, this is a trauma-informed program. So there is a piece of that, right? So if you are somebody who, for example, has gone to talk therapy, that's great. This is going to take you deeper into your healing. So I want to kind of have you think about it on a somatic level. And for those of you who don't know what the word somatic means, it's mind and body. So with breath work, with meditation, with movement, gentle movement in yoga, you are able to somatically release, along with the emotional rinsing that we do, these things that are holding you back, right? Because you can't fully live in your purpose and answer the call on your life and God's calling on your life, and even to be like the best mom or the best business owner or the best professional or the best wife or partner. If you haven't healed these things, you can't live in what you're meant, what the abundance, right? The abundance and the purpose that you're meant to live in. And one of the quotes that I love there's a couple quotes off the top of my head. One is a mentor of mine that says, transformation is essential, right? It's not a maybe, it's not a nice to have, it's an essential. And to add to that, it's because as we heal ourselves, we heal the world, right? So each one of us that heals ourselves is creating a ripple effect in the world. And if we don't heal ourselves, then that trauma, right, is going to show up, whether we're hurting other people and we're damaging relationships, or it is going to manifest on ourselves. And that means mental challenges, mental health, depression, anxiety. It can show up in health issues, because that trauma, right, and those emotions, because emotion is energy and motion in the body, there's a science behind it. It doesn't just go away. And so that's why we need things like somatic release to truly heal. And talk therapy, again, will get you to a certain point, but it's not, unless someone is doing breath work or other things like somatically, it is not healing you on multiple levels. And so I want you to kind of think about, like, you're healing the mind, you're rewiring the mind, you're resetting the body and the nervous system and the immune system. And then you are healing the heart space and the soul, right? Your spirit. Because if you're holding on to things like bitterness or anger or grief or sadness or unforgiveness, whether that's towards yourself or somebody else, you are blocking so many things in your life. And that's love, relationships, businesses, abundance, relationship to God. And
So,
that doesn't even include like the mental and physical health ramifications, right? Like that's just like, there's just so many things. And so, as you can tell me talking about this and speaking about this, that I'm super passionate about it, because I've seen it work in Margo's life. I've seen it work in hundreds of student lives, and I've seen it work in my life. And so I don't teach or mentor anything that I have not tried myself or that doesn't work for me. Does that make sense? Like I am not somebody who could be like encouraging people to do all of this if it hasn't been something that I've seen work for other students and myself. So if I can do it, and if Marga can do it, you can do it. Does that make sense?
it makes sense and it's true. And let me tell you, the first thing I learned was that breath work and meditation. And let me tell you, just like that credit card, I don't leave home without the breath work. I need the breath work. I need it even when I'm sitting right here. I'm doing it. You don't even see me because we got all kinds. And to keep balance.
Mm-hmm.
Balance is like being sure-footed, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
we get taught those things, how to balance ourselves mentally, physically, by releasing what we don't need or what doesn't serve us anymore. And trust
Mm-hmm.
me, I've done the yoga, we did the exercises and the poses and everything, and girl, I was crying, but you know what, I learned about them tears. That was how I was releasing. And guess what? I learned about that too. It's okay. Let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Let it go. And there's so much wealth in the Wise Mind program, and each person is different in what they need, but it's all there and it's all available, and all we got to do is the work.
I love that, girl, because, you know, that just is an example of how powerful these somatic type practices are, and that, you know, you can be in a pigeon pose or you can be in some of these other poses, and it is natural for you to start crying, and that not everybody does, but often people do. And I know myself personally, I've spent a lot of time crying in yoga, and people might think, well, is that a good thing? Well, actually it is, because to your point, you're releasing that past trauma. You are releasing those low vibrational emotions, right? So whether it's grief, sadness, anger, resentment, shame, guilt, you're holding that in your body. And
Yes.
when you're holding that in your body, again, you can't live the life that you're meant to live,
And
and the
you
life
know,
that God wants you to live. You can't live that life if you are holding on to these things from the past.
that's true. And that release, not only, don't reflect on just the tears, you're just letting all of that go and becoming
Mhm.
aligned with true self, with true thought. And even I feel like I have more of a relationship with, well, I have a relationship with God. I know everybody doesn't see it that way, but you will be aligned with your true self. And
Mhm.
that's what's important. And, you know, also the meditation, to be able to sit in
Mhm.
silence. I've had answers come to me, because I just sat in silence, asked a question, and I just disciplined myself to meditate,
Mhm.
regularly. It doesn't have to be every day, but regularly. And it
Mhm.
helps a whole lot of the choices you make. And girl, did I tell you about the breath work? Let me tell you, the nervous system, I need that. That's why I told you I was 55, because I got a whole lot of repairing to do.
Yeah, a lot of repairing and rewiring, right?
Very
And that's
wiring to do.
yeah, and that's what the meditation does. And that's the beautiful thing, is that for those of you that, you know, are not familiar with meditation, it is mainstream and it's science based, and there is a neuroscience to it. So it is not woo woo. And for those of you out there that might be faith based, I want to take a moment to just share this, that the type of meditation that we're teaching, a majority of it is, we're not asking you to like empty your mind or do these types of things. We're actually teaching you more mindfulness based meditation, where you're noticing thoughts and emotions that are coming in, and you're simply becoming an observer and a witness mind to be able to process and slow down those thoughts and emotions. Because there are other philosophies of meditation that will say, just empty your mind and, you know, you can stop all your thoughts. Well, that's not how we teach it, because you've heard me say this, and I'll say it again, that unless you're a monk living in the Himalayas that is meditating, you know, 12 hours a day, it is practically impossible for you to stop thoughts. Thoughts come like your breath comes, right? It just, thoughts are going to come, ocean waves are going to come. They just, right? It's as natural as your breath.
That's right.
And so if we can just start to, I like to think of it as a chariot, like, you know, your mind is a chariot. And one of my mentors would describe it this way, where you have like the reins of the horses of your mind, right? Which is like a band of wild horses. And
Yes.
so if you can just start to slow down those thoughts and be more in those control of those thoughts, then you slow down the emotion and the behavior part too, right? Because there's that thought, emotion, behavior pattern, right? That goes around and around and around. And the beautiful thing is the science behind it, that we rewire the brain through neuroplasticity and we create new neuron pathways. And that's the science behind it. And then we start to slow down the parts of our brain, like the amygdala and other parts that go 911 and causes like anxiety and emotional reactivity, and gets us offline where we're in emotion mind. And then like our prefrontal cortex shuts down. And then we can't make logical decisions because we're in fight or flight. So
And
what meditation allows you to do is to spend more of your time, right, in that relaxation response and less time in fight or flight. And when you get into fight or flight, you can train yourself to not stay there as long, and to get quickly out of it. Because to your point, through the breath work and meditation, you've trained your body, right? You know your mind, body, and breath awareness so
Yeah.
that like you can almost notice like my chest is tight, right? Or my breath is shallow, or I'm feeling it in my gut, or I'm starting to have racing thoughts, or whatever the thing is that you almost know. You start to know your nervous system and to know when you're in fight or flight, and that you actually can start to control being there less, which is
Yeah.
stress resilience and emotional resilience. And that
That's
affects all areas of our life, right?
right.
So I think that's a good thing for us to mention too, is that you are learning life skills. So
Yeah.
yes, you're going to be doing this for 6 months of a transformation that you're going to get our mentorship,
Mhm.
but you are going to learn life skills that you will practice for the rest of your life. This
That's
is not just a 6-month transformation. So that's important for me to mention
and
that.
let me say, once you do that, you're not gonna wanna go back. You're not.
Mhm.
It's gonna feel too good. And the moment I'm talking about myself, the moment you slip up a little bit, just a couple of weeks, you're like, oh God, I gotta get back to my journaling. I gotta get back to whatever it is that you stop for a minute. I mean, it's okay to stop if you have
Mhm.
to, but I'm saying you're not gonna want to because you created something new inside yourself. It is
Right.
yourself. It's your true self. You're finding you and
Right.
reclaiming you, you know?
So why don't you share a little bit more of some of the things you've seen, like some of the changes that you've seen? I know you talked about the breath work, and I know you have more emotional resilience, but what are some other areas that you've seen changes in your life, whether that's,
Um,
relationship, mom, work, whatever it is?
the I'm not good enough. Um, Now I don't have to be good enough. I'm just enough. you know,
Mhm.
I moved into spaces of acceptance of where I am right now,
Mhm.
meaning being in the present, meaning accepting the body that I'm in. Um, I've learned so many things. I'm trying to narrow it down, but I've come to a place where there was just so much that was revealed in the process of learning who I am and what
Mhm.
traumas I went through and
Mhm.
how to handle the process of that.
Mhm.
And the outcome of that was to it was very freeing for me, you know. Um,
Mhm.
and everything that I we learned, or I'll speak for myself, that I learned, everything was a gentle flow. So even if it felt a little emotional or if it felt something, it wasn't sharp pains. It wasn't anything like that. It was like
Mhm.
an awareness. Oh, I feel like this. Or a couple times I've cried of way I feel because maybe a memory popped up, but it was okay because now I'm learning. I'm getting what Carl Jung says. I'm getting out of from the subconscious to the conscious, so I can change my situation. You know,
Mhm.
why stay the same? Change is inevitable. You know, so what some of the other things I learned, there's a lot of deeper things that impact me, and
Mhm.
that I like I said, I come from not knowing, not remembering, not understanding things that were happening in my body, things that never was processed from a
Mhm.
child to now, from young adult to now, never
Mhm.
processed at all. So just to jump from unaware to aware is huge because
Mhm.
now I can even feel the pulse when my blood is going through my veins. Awareness is so so the good first step. I don't think that's the end. I think it's the beginning of
Mhm.
what I've learned. And yeah, I want to say more, but it's just
Well, go ahead and share. If you've got more, go ahead and share it, girl.
okay. So well, like I said, I went through trauma, and in that trauma, well, everybody goes through trauma, but I mean, a childhood sexual
Mhm.
trauma. I went through that, and then
Mhm.
never processed it because I was so young. I didn't know. And through the Wise Mind program, I become aware of it and was
Mhm.
able then to process it in a safe environment
Mhm.
that is created by Wise Mind, and was able to release it, all of it. And
Mhm.
um, that was huge for me, because those are one of the patterns that I don't know why I'm doing something and I just keep doing it. I don't know why I'm always afraid, or I'm always cautious, or I'm always, from that thing. That's
Mhm.
where it was resulting from. So now I've learned that, now that I know that's true and I know that I'm free from it, I could
Mhm.
just say to myself easily, "Oh, you know, we don't have to do that. We don't have to behave like that. We don't have to." And I don't. You know,
Mhm.
I don't, you know. And uh we had a wonderful, I went on a retreat, and I learned that everything that I am, I just became more of me, and I just became deeper um, in liking myself, and it, and I think it's important, because once I heal my heart, I have much more love for other people, and
Mhm.
I yeah, and I'm still growing. I'm definitely still growing and still learning and still taking the lessons in, because
Mhm.
the value of those lessons don't just, they're just not surface level. You go back
Mhm.
into them and then you see something else again.
Mhm.
And just like, for instance, I had a supervisor, and naming no names, but I'm just saying that it was so stressful every time I had a meeting with this supervisor, and that breath work was key. I mean, I was breathing hard too. 15 minutes. I was doing the alternative nostril breath.
Yeah.
I was taking about at least 3 or 4 breaths to get through this meeting, right? But I did it, and I learned how to do it, because I was so emotionally reactive, because I was always nervous, and I was always
Mhm.
like, "Oh, what are they gonna say?" and blah blah blah. And I just started I just took hold on to the the lessons and the understanding of breathing and meditating, and I just grabbed on fast. And I recommend to anyone that goes through these classes, if you have an experience in your life, use what she gives you. Use it, because that's what I did. That's how I learned how to break through stuff. I used
Mhm.
it, and I kept using it until I saw change.
Mhm.
And I still use it, but in different situations. So um, it's been a wild ride, from emotional resilience to,
Mhm.
oh my God, I didn't know this is what I was thinking and how I was feeling. And, even when I had made some other mistake, and I thought that, I jumped the gun and thought somebody thought something. And when I saw it, I said, "Oh, you need to do some homework. You're not finished." you know. But, but to get to a place where you can say, "Oh, hey, it's not about them, it's about me. Let's see how we can change our perspective on that situation." And that was some of the key healing, is changing my perception on
Mhm.
everything that was happening in life, whatever is around me or whoever is around me. And
Mhm.
that was a one of the key things that healed me, is my perception. I've now gone through the lessons and changed a lot of my perceptions about
Mhm.
people. Said, again, emotional resilience, there's words involved, and I never was the drama type. I was more the type, like, I would internalize.
Mhm.
So but it would be the drama type doing this, and I'm like, okay. And then I get upset, I get frustrated, because you're holding it all inside,
Mhm.
and now I can blow it off, because my perception has changed. Oh, I know you're hurting. Because of how I know? Because I went through all those stages of classes to find out how I
Mhm.
was hurting. And I can see it so clear that, I don't get upset, because I can see it in other people when they're going through. So it gives
Right.
me a space to have compassion for them instead
Mhm.
of getting upset, you know.
Well, I love that, girl, because self-awareness is so important, and it sounds so simple, but there's so many people that don't have it. And there's a majority of people that are running around, with unhealed trauma, and they're projecting that onto everybody else, and they're hurting a lot of people in the process, and they're not even aware of it. They're not even conscious. It's not, most people are not maliciously, right, trying to hurt somebody else. Most people, I won't say all people, but most people. And I think that they're just operating from that place of a wound or trauma or hurt that has not been processed and has not been healed and transformed. And I'm right there with you, because I can definitely say that the more you heal and transform yourself, the more you learn to love yourself and have compassion, the more you, like you just said, the more you have to give other people.
Yes.
And it all starts with healing yourself, though, and like getting away from the blame game, right? Of blaming, pointing the finger at everybody else around you, and pointing the finger back at yourself,
That's right.
and being like, how am I responsible, or how am I accountable in this situation? How would I, and sometimes it's not, sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's, what I'm saying? Like sometimes it truly is that other person that is,
Well, yeah, sometimes it really is. And but to be the observer. So in our meditation, we learn how to observe our thoughts. In real life and day-to-day life, we learn how to observe the person without getting caught up into their psyche, you know.
right.
So like I said, there's a lot. For instance, as we've been talking, again, I said I internalized also when I would get hurt, I would push away. I would, okay, I'm done with you. In life, you can't always be like that because they still could be good people.
Mhm.
But I would just, okay, you know, but again, now changing the perspective, now I can have, I mean, I always was a little bit of a compassionate person. I think that's why sometimes, or empathetic, that's why it hurts so much. But
Mhm.
I didn't know at the time how to perceive it so I can change and shift the way I handle a situation, how I
Mhm.
deliver the message, how I use my voice. There was a time I didn't use my voice because I had the good girl syndrome. We just do this and we don't do that. And I didn't even know how to express myself. So you see all this talking,
Mhm.
I wasn't that way coming up. I was very quiet.
Yeah, and you've been able to heal your voice,
Yeah,
right? And to be able
yes,
to use your voice.
yes,
And um, part of that is all the things that we do, right? Whether it's affirmations or singing or chanting or, you know, the yoga, the breath work, the meditation, the journaling, like all of it all works together for you to be able to heal your voice, right?
yes,
And
yeah,
part of that is releasing all those things, right? Any
right,
shame or sadness or resentment or anger or grief that was living in the body, that all affects our ability to use our voice and to be able to speak up. And myself included, I struggled with that too for years, right? And being a recovering people pleaser, right? And to actually be able to use my voice and to speak up. And I think you and I both are ambiverts or introverts, right? So
yes,
ambivert is that mix between an extrovert and an introvert. And an introvert gets restored, or an ambivert gets restored and an introvert by time alone. And
yes.
an extrovert gets restored by being around people all the time. So when you're an ambivert, you love being around people, and you love, like I love, you know, when I used to, own the studio, or when I do retreats, or when I'm around people, or I'm at church, whatever the thing is, I love being around people and I thoroughly enjoy that. But I have a limit of how much time I can be around people. And that took me well into my 40s to figure that out. I didn't understand why I felt so drained sometimes, or why I need a recovery, like after going on a vacation or spending time with my family for a week, right? Because I get drained, right, from being around people. So as long as I plug myself in and I restore
Right.
myself, which yoga was one of the things that helps me do that, along with prayer, meditation, all the things, right? You have to restore yourself. So
Yes.
there's like this vital, like revival and then there's like restoration, and you
Right.
have to do both to be able to, again, fully function. And whether that's your health, whether that's mental health,
Yeah.
physical health, spiritual health, it affects all of it. And then you being able to, like, you know,
It's true. You have to
be,
recharge, and like I said, as we were talking before, is that the voice, it got so bad that I had to take get speech therapy because my throat was trying to protect itself, and you know that um, protection. We what we think is, I was always a person that felt like I needed protection because I didn't get any when I was a child. But the
mhm,
problem with that is it's the perception of protection usually is not what protection actually is. So it showed
mhm.
up in my throat, and my throat would close and I could barely talk and had to go to speech therapy. And the therapist said it's because your throat is trying to protect. It's you got your esophagus and everything. It's trying to protect, and it kept closing instead of open.
Wow. When did you go and find that out?
That was maybe 2 years ago. And
Wow.
yeah, I had and then went through some therapy, and I still do some of the exercises for that, you
Mhm.
know. But I'm just saying the mind, and what we don't always know why something's happening. We think it's a separate thing, but in
Mhm.
actuality, it for me was a buildup of things that finally showed up that way.
Mhm. And it's like the body keeps score, right?
It does.
That I'm pretty sure it's Gabor Mate that wrote that book, The Body Keeps Score, and that's exactly what I'm talking about with the science behind how trauma will hold itself in the body and why it has to be released somatically.
Yes.
And I love what you just said, Marga. That would be amazing if eventually, when you felt comfortable to work with people around them using their voice
Mm,
and sharing their stories and speaking their truth. And maybe there's some of those exercises that you did on yourself that you might be able to share with other people to
yeah.
help them with, because that's very common, right? For people to not be able to speak their voice when they've gone through trauma or speak up
Yes.
for themselves, which is
Yes.
why so many of them end up as people pleasers or codependents.
Yes.
And, I have, as you know, like Hashimoto's and hypothyroid. And I'm 99% sure that the part of that is attributed to either generational trauma or childhood trauma of
Yes.
why I have the issues I do with my throat.
Yes.
And I was not able to speak up. I didn't feel like I could speak up as a child. And so I did the same thing where I would hold stuff in,
Mm-hmm.
and then I would hold stuff in a majority of the time. And then I would get to the point where I would just explode. Like I was never like rage or anything, but it was more like anger and sadness combined. And I don't know
Yes.
what you call that. If there's
I
a word
know.
to combine anger and sadness, because I remember like just like tears would just run down my face,
Yes.
and I would be crying while I was talking. And so that's that place where that's where you go into that emotion mind, right?
Yes.
And so that's important for me to mention that we teach you communication skills so
Yes.
that you can have mindful and conscious communication, whether that's speaking up for yourself, whether that's in a relationship. That how can you have this communication that is in a place of wise mind, right? And not in a place of emotion mind. And we actually teach you that in
Yes.
addition to you learning how to regulate your emotions and how to
Yes.
process difficult emotions. And then
Yes.
how do you actually retrain the mind and body so that you can have more productive conversations and not in a place of like, anger or
Yes.
tears running down or yelling or whatever the thing is.
Right.
Because when you're in that place, as you know, people always say and do things they regret.
Yes.
And it's not surprising because when you understand the logic behind it, again, your prefrontal cortex is shut down
That's
and you're
right.
not thinking logically. So that's why so many times when you get into these like, arguments, whether it's with like a sibling or, your daughter, your son, whether it's, with a significant other, whatever it is, with your parents, whatever, these people, especially that we have close, intimate relationships with, can really trigger us.
Yes,
And unless we've healed those wounds and learned skills to regulate our emotions,
that's right.
and also to be able to speak up when we need time. So
Yes,
instead of feeling like we have to do it right now, we actually speak up and say, you know what? This is important to me, and I'm acknowledging you, that I
yes,
see you, I hear you. We need to talk about this. So you acknowledge that you're not like, you know, repressing it or ignoring it or avoiding it. But at the same time, you're not in a place mentally and physically and emotionally to have that discussion. And so
that's
the thing I've had to learn is to say, let's wait. I need a minute. Like, it
that's
might
right.
be an hour, it might be a day, it might be a week, but I need some time before I'm ready to talk about this. And I
Yes.
need some time to process this, because where I'm at right now, like, this is not a place for us to have a productive, conscious, mindful communication
And
discussion.
and let me say, through the classes too, you learn to get confidence and courage to do that. If you
Mhm.
don't, or if you're not using your voice and you don't know how, and you learn how, and you just take a little step at a time, and again, you get the tools to kind of the framework of giving you examples of what you could say, so that you could start expanding your thought process on that. And when you
Mhm.
do, what's going to happen is that you're going to gain the confidence to start speaking up, because now you're becoming more sure of yourself because of the homework.
Mhm.
There is, and I always go back to the homework, because that's where you go and find out some stuff about you. That's where you go, they go deep and say, like when I journal, I say whatever I want to say,
Mhm.
you know, and get it out. But the best thing is also is that we're in a very safe environment. Everyone that's here is going through something similar, and we're able to, share with one another, you know,
Mhm.
and bounce off of one another if we need to. How's this sound? This is how I'm feeling, or how did you get over that? We have
Mhm.
we have opportunities for that as well.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I love, um, you sharing about that. And, really, it's important, like, to share too, that we give you actually, like you just said, whole exercises where you have the homework, and we're actually giving you ways and examples of how to have conversations in relationships. Like, we've done all that research for you of effective communication and relationships. So, um, and also healing trauma in relationships as well. It's
Yeah.
important for me to mention that. So, so another thing, just that I just thought of as far as from a support perspective, is I think it's important, to say that we do have a private Facebook group, right, where people can interact in a private Facebook group. And I'm teaching twice a month, where I'm mentoring in that private group. Um, so this is meant to be supportive. It is meant to be, like a soul sister community. And so it's important to mention that. And I feel like that's definitely been a key area, where how we've been able to support students. And you mentioned that earlier, as far as it being, a safe container for us to be able to support each other,
Yes.
because it's important for people to understand that they're not alone, and that a majority of the things, like you had talked about earlier about healing your inner critic, right? And healing your self doubt and starting to trust yourself. And
Yes.
if you can do it, and if I can do it, they can do it. Because I had a very loud inner critic voice, and a majority of people do have very loud inner critic voices. When you ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, they will say a 10 or over a 10. So
Yes.
if you're feeling that negative self-talk, or that inner critic, or that feeling of I'm not enough, or I'm not worthy, or who do you think you are, or you never get enough done, you are not alone. But I'm here to tell you that you can make a choice. You can decide that you do want to change those patterns. And I'm here as a living testimony. Margo's here as a living testimony. The hundreds of students that have gone through the program, that you can change that. and that you don't have to feel that way. You don't have to feel the self-doubt, the fear, the unworthiness, the I'm not enoughness. Because I can tell you, like, if I wouldn't have gone through the training and the coaching and the mentoring that I have and the things that I've shared with you in the program, I wouldn't be having this conversation right now, because I sure as heck would not be getting on the live Facebook.
Right.
Okay. If I wouldn't have done this healing, and that goes for you as well. If you
Yes.
wouldn't have done the healing that you've done, you wouldn't feel comfortable to be on here having a live conversation with me. Right. So that just goes to show like how much courage and bravery and faith and healing and transformation that you've gone through, that you're actually here, like that you're willing to share all this. And there's no editing happening on any of this. Like, this is live. Right. And so, I think that's really important to mention. And then also, like what you shared with like using your voice, we want to train and inspire and mentor and encourage and motivate students and teachers. And even if it's in your everyday life, right? Even if you're not going to be a teacher, but to be a leader, right? To be able to lead. And whether that's leading in your home, whether that's leading a program, whether that's leading at your work or your business, whatever the thing is. And so that's why, like, healing your voice, right? And being able to speak your truth. And when I say truth, I mean more, what's your God-given purpose, right? Like what are the things that you can share about your story that is going to help somebody else? Like, what are the things, the hard things that you've gone through, where you're turning pain into purpose and your mess into, or your mess into your message, right? Like,
Yes.
you're taking the things that you've gone through and you've struggled with, and you're sharing that with other people, because I can guarantee you the things that you're struggling with, for those of you that are interested in mentoring and coaching or being a leader for other people, there's somebody else out there right now that needs to hear your story.
That's right.
And we all have unique stories. We all have a unique purpose. We all have unique gifts. And, my story is different from Margo's story, and Margo has beautiful gifts and God-given gifts and spiritual gifts and strengths that I don't have, and vice versa. And that goes for everybody. And so if more people would just be more aware of their beautiful gifts that they have inside, I don't want to get emotional, they would not be so willing to compare themselves to somebody else or have envy or jealousy. If
Yes.
more people were unconditionally loving themselves and radically accepting themselves and
Yes.
releasing those wounds and that trauma, then they will have more love and compassion and empathy and less envy and less jealousy and more lifting each other up,
Yes.
right? Because when people really understand that there is nobody like you, like, you
Nobody.
are 100% unique. Every head on, every hair on your head, every gift that you've been given, every strength, all of it. And even the weaknesses, it's okay. Like, there's really not a weakness per se. Like, it's just knowing the things that you're good at and focusing on those things and letting go of the things that aren't. And so I think that's another thing for me to mention with this girl, Let It Go, in her circle and the WISE method is, you really are peeling back and letting go and resetting, letting go of those things that don't serve you, and letting go of any weakness, like, not a weakness, but just learning to know yourself enough so that you know your gifts and you know your strengths, and you're
Yeah.
focusing on those instead of the other things. Does that make sense? Like, for example, I'm not a super techie person, right?
Yes.
And I'm okay with that. So I have somebody that helps me with tech stuff. And I
Yes.
don't beat myself up because that's not a strength for me,
Right. Right.
right? I focus on the things that I am good at. I'm good at, like, communication. I'm good at encouraging other people. I'm good at helping people heal and transform. And right. So the point is, like, I could focus on that thing and I could beat myself up about it, or I can choose to let it go.
Yeah. So and letting it go also is just you allowing you to not put pressure on yourself of having, keeping, or thinking about the past. You just stop putting pressure on yourself. And it's
Mhm.
okay.
Mhm.
I used to have trouble when people used to say, "Girl, just let it go." You know, some people could just things just roll off their back. I was like, "What's let it go?" Because I don't know how to do that. So that's why I say let what you're letting go is the pressure. What you're letting go is you thinking that you have to do or have to be or have to. It's
Right.
or thinking in the past and remembering and just let it go. Let's be a new you. Just let it go. And and get some wings and
I
fly.
love that, girl. You're speaking the talk, right? You're the whole like girl or bro, let it go,
Yeah,
because yeah, I mean it's not serving anyone, right? If
yeah.
you don't let it go and holding on to those things, yeah, it's not.
It's not fruitful. It's not
Mm,
benefiting. It is
mm-mm.
only hurting you. It's only causing suffering and pain. It's only just bringing you down every day. Do you want to get away from all of that? Do you want to get out of that? Then let it go. Learn what it means to let it go. Go through the Wise Mind program, because in every area, there's different areas in our life. We might got it good on one area, but the other stuff's all jacked up. Learn how to let it go. I know, I'm sorry.
No, it's true. It's true. In fact, I talk about that it's like a whack-a-mole, I feel like sometimes, because trying to keep everything balanced, like I feel like sometimes my physical health is doing really well, right? And I'm doing really well in my physical health, but maybe my spiritual health is not where I want it to be, or maybe I'm really good in my physical and spiritual health and I'm doing really good with all those things, but maybe like something's off with my mental health, or
Right.
and so I call that a whack-a-mole as far as like keeping everything balanced. And so
Yeah,
that's why I teach the mind, body, spirit, the mind, body, soul, because all those things are interconnected and one affects the other. So
that's
something's off with your physical health, right? It's going to affect potentially your mental and your spiritual health, and vice versa.
that's right.
And so that's why all three of those are so important. Um, so one last thing, girl, and then I'm going to let you go, is can you just talk for a minute about your experience like with the learning management system and the content and the things that you worked with that way, just so that somebody's not familiar like with our e-learning platform, that you can do it with a podcast on your phone, on your computer. It's more like it can be used as an app if you're doing like a master class where I'm talking in the background.
Mhm.
Obviously if it's yoga or meditation, you got to focus on that, but can you share a little bit about the e-learning, the on-demand platform?
Yes, as Judy said, I've used on the laptop, on the phone, and when I go through the LMS, it's user friendly. You just click on and read your information. They got it outlined in a way that you can follow it every week and get through those classes or lessons. Again, like she said, if you are doing the yoga, of course you have to, you know, um, be at your house and, or wherever
Mhm.
you're going to be. As long as you got your cell phone or your laptop, you can do that. And it's, you got different modules and you just go through each module as you can. And the reason why I
Mhm.
say as you can, because you are healing yourself. So there are
Mhm.
things that you might have to take a pause, and meaning you may have to, learn how to do the tools, breathe, do some somatic work, and then get back to the next lesson. That does
Mhm.
happen. But there's a wealth of information and it's so easy to use. You, it's very user friendly. Just click on, read, and it's all set up for you through videos and,
Mhm.
and different documentation there for you to follow. And just do the work, just follow it along. You don't have to go to the left or to the right. It's all written down for you. You just have to absorb, you just have to learn and take it in for yourself.
I love that, girl. And it's important too to mention that like you can pause a video if you need to go back to it. It'll leave
Oh
it,
yeah.
bookmark it where you were, or you can click complete once you've completed a video. Um, and it's on demand. So you get lifetime access to it. So you don't have to finish everything in 6 months. So you don't have to stress about that. And for those of you that are curious about getting a yoga psychology certification, we have that as an option. So, definitely set up a consultation with me, and I'm happy to like walk you through the different options.
Oh, and
Um,
let's not forget that we
and
also have mentors as well in some of
right.
the classes. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll have me live twice a month in the Facebook group. And like I said, you're going to get a lot of mentorship with that too. And um, if anybody out there is curious about getting deeper mentorship and they want to be part of like the group mentorship and maybe one-on-one with me, or maybe they're just interested in one-on-one, then set up a call on the Girl Let It Go site. There's a consult call there. That's again just 15 minutes. So it's not a sales pitch. It's literally like we just said, Margo just shared. It's a conversation.
It's a
It's,
conversation
that's all
that
it is. So
men and women both
yep,
um,
men and women, we do the bro or the girl, let it go. And if you are, I guess I just invite you to, I think, say yes to your own healing and transformation. And most of the time, when I ask students, like, if they don't have a financial block, right? Because many students have a financial block. If you didn't have that financial block, would you be a yes? And I would say 99% are a yes. So just know that there's no perfect timing. There's always going to be something going on in your life. So it's just a matter of making it a priority out of your busy schedule, that it is a priority for you to heal and transform your own life, and that your mental, emotional, and spiritual health and physical health are a top priority for you. And so you're going to decide and make a choice that you're going to invest the time and the finances and the energy into that. And you would agree with me, like on the other end of the transformation, that it's priceless, right? Every hour, every dollar, every bit of energy that you put into it, you're going to get out like tenfold.
I agree with you
So,
on both sides because one of the healings that I went through was financial scarcity,
mhm.
so, and I've learned that I'm no longer scared. Now I have to ask God, please help me be wise because I'm not scared anymore.
Mhm.
So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I agree with you on both sides. And it's an amazing ride. It's amazing when you talk about financial, it's amazing to think, hey, because I didn't have it. Don't get it twisted. I didn't have it, but it worked. And
Mhm.
some of the options that are available, it also helped me, and they worked. And
Right.
here I am.
Yeah, here you are. And just to mention one last time, and then I'm going to ask you one more question. We're going to jump off here. Is um, we have even more options available, even when you were signing up. Like we have a firm and afterpay. We have anywhere from 4 months to 3 years. We've got, I don't know, it's something like 8 different options, as low as starting at $85. And we've got 2 other partners, which Marga took advantage of that opportunity. We have other partners in place for um, installment plans with them. So if a firm or afterpay is not an option for you, or you don't want to go that route, we've got other options. You can pay in full. So the point is, we literally will customize and work with you to figure out a way to make it work. And I've done that for 4 years since I started this program. There's many, many examples you've heard other people share over and over again that I have come up with custom financial ways to make it work for you. So if that is something holding you back, please don't let that hold you back, because we will figure something out. I will do everything I can do, whatever that plan is, to try to make something work.
Yes, agreed.
Um, and we just did something last week where, like, we initially had come up with a plan that didn't have a deposit. And so I came up with another plan where somebody put down a deposit and then they were paying payments on less amount. So that's an example of what I mean by I will get creative and we can create custom ways that work for you.
Yeah,
Okay. So it's important for me to mention that. Okay, so one last question, girl. If somebody came to you and said, "Hey, Marga, I'm thinking about WiseMind Yoga," like what would you tell that person? Like, I'm thinking about going through the training, or I want to do this for my own healing and personal transformation. What would you tell that person?
I would tell them to go for it because your healing process will be minimized compared to what you would do on your own. Doing it on your own, you can do it, but it's not going to be the same. If you want healing, you want change, you want to have compassion, you want to speak differently because of whatever you've gone through. Maybe you're going through anxiety, maybe you're going through something that you just can't seem to put your finger on.
Mm-hmm.
Go through the program. You will not waste one dime by going through the program. You will learn a lot about yourself. You will heal not only yourself, but you will end up healing your family. You'll
Mm-hmm.
end up showing them some things so that you can all do it together. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just you, yourself, and me, myself, and I. It's you and your family and whoever
Mm-hmm.
lives you touch. So try it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, girl, I really appreciate that because I mean, it really is like healing generational trauma. And that's a good, I'm glad that you mentioned that because you're not just healing yourself, you're healing future generations, right? You're healing past generations and you're healing future generations.
That's right.
And you're affecting yourself, your kids, your grandkids, your great grandkids, and so forth. And so that's another reason why I'm so passionate about this work is because we're not just healing ourselves, we're healing our whole family.
That's right.
And I really appreciate you taking the time to share all of this and to share your testimony, to share your experience, because you've heard me say this and I'll say it again, that there's nothing like hearing from a student what their experience has been,
Yes. Yeah.
and so I just really appreciate you taking the time. I'm really grateful because I know your time is valuable. Everybody's time is valuable.
And let me say, it's my pleasure to do that, do this small thing for all that I've gained. It's my pleasure.
Thank you, girl. I so appreciate that. I'm giving you a big virtual hug. And thank you. Thank you for all the prayers and for praying over me and like just your genuine caring and love. I really appreciate the support.
Yes. Yes.
So thank you. Really. It's I'm gonna get emotional. I don't want to cry. But I do want to thank you and I really appreciate it.
Many
Um
blessings. Thank you. You know,
So, yeah, so I'm sending you all so much love and light. I will put the link in the comments. You don't have to do a consult, just so I put that out there. It's not necessary. You can actually look at the page. You can DM us on the business page, Wise Mind Yoga Psychology Meditation Mindfulness Center. Let us know, like you can DM Let Go, or let us know that you're interested. If you want to know more about the investment and all that kind of stuff, just message us and you can enroll that way. And then if you want to get on a consult, great, but it's not necessary. It's not mandatory. Okay. All right. I'm sending you all so much love and light, and we will chat soon. Take care.
okay. Bye bye.
Bye.